And we're live.
All right, we are.
Matt, this does not look like your office.
It
I mean,
does
it doesn't
not
look like
look
your home office. It
it
looks like
it
some
does not
office.
look like my
Whew,
home office. This is the spaces in Toronto.
you're in Toronto.
Uh,
Interesting.
which province is that? Ontario?
It's
Yeah.
Ontario, yes.
Yeah.
Ontario, where the black
hmm
flies roam. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So this is our office, you know, our company is based in this complex. So
Very
I'm here
cool.
for the week. Yeah.
Very neat. What do you think of Toronto so far? I've only been a few times.
It's cold.
Yes, that is true.
It's a
It
bit
is.
colder here.
It's
It's
actual Canada.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's actual Canada. Is that like? I mean,
I
isn't
think
it
so.
kind of? Don't you have? I mean, Canada's pretty big, so but this is like southern edge.
Yeah, no, this is I would consider as a like typical Canadian
Okay.
experience. I think we would all agree.
Oh,
I
typical
mean,
Canadian.
probably because the capital of the country is in Ontario, and
Hmm.
Ontario is kind of where a lot of the wealth and stuff is. So people
Right.
assume that
Right.
the Ontario experience is kind of the Canadian experience. I mean, there
Yeah.
are some provinces that are closer by that are even like colder, but I feel like Toronto, Ontario is what people expect
Okay.
when they talk about
All right.
Canada.
All right.
And then Northern Ontario is definitely like Northern Canada. You can get
Right.
polar bears and
Right.
all types of fun stuff. But yeah, it's certainly cold. I
Yeah.
apologize. I'm obviously Canadian. I'm sorry that it is cold.
Yeah.
But I also don't envy you. I'm. It's really nice here today. It's too bad you're not
Yeah.
back closer to Seattle because it's actually really nice
Yeah.
weather right now, which is
Yeah.
unseasonal.
Yeah. No, it's well, thankfully I just have to go outside for the walk from the hotel to here, and then it's pleasant inside here.
I'm trying to think. I don't know much in terms of food recommendations, but there's a place called Nami, Nami. That's pretty good sushi.
Hmm.
When I say
Okay.
that, I mean it's probably amazing sushi, but for me it was pretty good.
We went
Bit
to
of
a
a
place
sushi
called
snub.
Chateau something last
Chateau
night.
de Castle, some sort of castle?
No,
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 no castle.
no castle.
All right.
Um, God, I can't remember what it was called now. Chateau something. It was a Asian fusion sushi slash tapas
Okay,
kind of
I'm
place.
hearing chateau, but are you saying tato?
Chateau, Chotto
Oh,
something.
that means small or short
Yeah.
in Japanese. Yeah,
Ah,
chotto,
okay. Chateau. Okay.
just a little bit. Yeah.
Small plates. Yeah.
Oh, there
Small
you go.
Japanese plates. There.
No
Makes
hole in the
sense
wall
then.
kind of thing. Right on.
Let's see. What was it called? Chateau mate.
Chotto mate means just a minute.
Okay.
Mate is like matter of time. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
That's our
Well,
Japanese lesson for today.
then it's a terrible name because it takes a lot more than just a minute.
So it's Sugoshimo Chotto mate. It's like it's gonna take a really long time. It's gonna take longer than you expected
It
based on the
yes, yes. So, and we got dinner planned for somewhere tonight, somewhere in Yorktown. So I don't know where that. I mean, I know where Yorktown is, but I don't know where the restaurant is. And then I noticed. I think the last time I was in Toronto before working at Infra, was I think for DevOps days. Um, I don't know. Were you with me at that? No, you didn't go to DevOps days
I,
that
I,
time.
I rarely go to Toronto. It's like a
Okay.
Canadian joke. Like most of Canada doesn't like Toronto. I haven't been
Well,
very often.
I remember I couldn't remember where the event was, but I remember one of the things that sticks out in my mind from that whole visit was it was one of the best ice cream places I've ever been to.
Wow,
Um, uh, really great flavors, and
nice.
a place called Sweet Jesus.
That's a
Um,
great name.
and it turns out it's
Much
right around
better
the
name.
corner from my hotel.
Oh,
So
that sounds like a religious
I found that
experience.
out this morning. It's like, oh God, that's not good.
You did your communion. There's too many jokes here.
Yeah, yeah.
Your daily
So
prayer.
right.
That's really awesome.
So
We're talking about
uh,
ice cream in March, though. What are you doing?
yeah, I it might be closed. I mean, it's like the hotel has a pool,
Mm,
but it's an outdoor pool.
okay, that sounds like a bad
Um,
idea in Ontario.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I called ahead and says, "Oh yeah, it's not open."
You want to get your laps in or what have you?
Yeah. Well, maybe.
Why not?
Sure.
Yeah, you're like, should I bring trunks or not? Yeah, it's worth a call.
Exactly. That was kind of the gist of the question. But no, don't bring them.
Ah, it's too bad. How long are you there for?
So, I head home on Thursday night.
Okay,
Yeah,
short trip.
yeah. Came in last night. Last night? Yeah, yesterday. And I head back on Thursday. I'll probably do this once a month.
That's not bad. Presumably
Yeah.
you flew in like United, something like that.
I flew on Air Canada.
Okay, yeah, I think they co-share. That's kind of what I was asking.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
and
it had
that's
the tail had the Air Canada kind of logo on it.
yeah. The benefit of that Canada flight from Seattle to Toronto is a direct flight. It's the
Right,
one direct flight.
right.
So I mean, even though I was in coach, or economy, um, it's only 4.5 hours. So
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
it's
So the
great.
business people get there faster. Is that what
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been tending to go, of a higher class for a lot of flights recently. So,
Yeah.
um, but
So I think what you're
it's
saying is
eight,
the trip.
9 hours
Yeah, it feels
on
like
any
it's
other.
longer when you're in economy. Like the
Yeah.
experience is
hmm
more
hmm
torturous.
Yeah, that's it.
I listen. I've only flown business a few times. The first time somebody, this is kind of like an Atlantic Canadian sort of thing, but I was on the plane going to Atlantic Canada with Atlantic
hmm
Canadians in business, and we had free wine. And the person beside me, of course, starts asking me like who my family is, who know like this person and that person, and ended up just wanting to stay up all night and drink wine, and it was awful. The second time I got upgraded and had a panic attack, I don't know why, because I didn't have a window seat, and I was kind of like losing it. And then the last one was in Hawaii. But I feel like I don't know when we fly business or first class or what have you, it gets you it like wets the whistle. So you want to do that every time you fly, and it
Yes.
gets pricey
Yes.
very quickly. If you're not doing like a free
Yes.
upgrade or something like that, it's a lot of
Yeah.
money. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I I got accustomed to it when I was doing a lot of travel from Amsterdam, and I'd go to Australia, 4 or 5 times a year, and I was always on United. Every flight I took was United, and they'd always welcome me at the airport, saying, "Thank you for being a customer, Mr. Williams. Here's your free first class upgrade." And so I'd always get bumped to first
that is
on those,
fantastic.
flights to Australia, and it was. I mean, I'd have to go through the US, which is a little bit longer way to do it, but it meant flying United and I'd get a free upgrade. And it
That's
was
fantastic.
first class going to
Yeah,
Australia is awesome.
like I don't really have much status. I think
Yeah.
I'm like the first year or something like that. Maybe that's why I get
hmm
an upgrade. But yes, that I have noticed that
Yeah.
there's a big difference between the experience of someone who has just a little
Yeah.
bit of status compared to like the
Yeah.
normal kind of flight. So it does kind of pay off to pick one airline, but I didn't know that
Yeah.
until I talked to Jason, actually, Jason Yee, who
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, we had a long talk about just status and stuff like that and why it matters. And I'm like, this is
hmm
all BS or whatever.
Yeah.
And sure enough, he was right. I mean, he's been traveling for
Yeah.
quite some time, so he knows the system. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a marked different. You feel like a real human again. It's kind of
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
amazing.
yeah. It's kind of like the first time you go on a flight with noise canceling headphones. It's
Right.
like, oh my God, why didn't I do this
Oh,
before?
yes, absolutely. Totally
Yeah.
agree. Like, what was I
hmm
doing? I think I've told this
Yeah.
before, but I used to like one in ear, one over, and I can't hear
hmm
anything, and it's amazing. And the first time I figured out that hack, it's exactly the same thing. It was like
Yeah.
another aha moment. Like, oh my,
Yeah.
I can't even hear the five children screaming beside me because there
Right.
were
Right.
there's like
Yeah.
two in one row and three in the other. I think there were five children all
Yeah.
hear a
Ugh.
thing. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I think those were flights to Korea, which were always economy. Samsung is a little bit
Right.
more uh, tight with the shoestrings when it comes to budgets. So
hmm
it was always
Well, I mean,
economy, and I flew there a lot.
I mean, some of the airlines, like, I loved, going to, um, where was it I was going to? I think I went with for Datadog to, Hong Kong. Yeah, I
Mhm.
went to Hong Kong, or Mac
Nice.
yeah, Hong Kong. Um, and, um, and flew on JAL.
Yep.
At
Agile
least,
is amazing.
yeah. And that was amazing. I mean, even though I wasn't coach,
Yep.
because you're able to press the button, have the bowl of udon noodles brought to you at any time of
Yeah.
any time of the flight. It's like, oh my God. And it was like really good stuff. Um,
Yeah, Gel is
so
is quite good. I would say one of the better
yeah,
experiences for
yeah,
airlines, just throughout the whole process, like dealing with
yeah,
the customer service and all that is has been quite good.
yeah,
And there's no arguing about like lodging or whatever if they mess something out. They're very apologetic and they'll do it up front, which
yeah,
is like a
yeah,
completely different experience. Or
yeah, yeah.
just yeah, I think it's just a different experience.
Mhm, mhm. But
So
I heard you did a webinar recently.
yeah, I was about to do my cold segue as well. So I did a webinar this morning. I kind of wanted to ask you some questions and feel like
Hmm.
what your take on webinars is, and then maybe just talk about my experience. So the first thing is that just to sort of set the stage, I feel like I take webinars way more seriously than the people attending the webinars, the people
Hmm.
giving the webinars, and then maybe the people like organizing the webinars. All of this to say that like someone's given me a stage where I don't have to like walk on the stage,
Right.
plug anything in at the podium. I
Yeah.
can just do it from my living room. It's kind of awesome. But also, I feel like I joined DevRel in 2020, essentially. So this is a new career for
Hmm.
me. And obviously, 2020 is a bit different than most years for DevRel. So I learned basically to do conference talks as
Yeah.
webinars or what have you, pre
Yeah.
recorded sessions. And I think because of that, I kind of like, I just grew up in that experience and really liked it. But even
Mm.
prior to coming to Datadog, I would be that person who would watch a webinar while eating lunch at
Right.
work at my
Right.
desk kind of thing. I like learning. I like figuring out things
Hmm.
from different people. And there are varying
Oh yeah.
qualities of webinar.
Hmm.
There's very different ranks. There's
Yeah.
more like marketing, sales, tech kind of stuff. So what I really liked personally as an attendee was the webinars where we get technical. We go through a
Right.
demo, we break something, learn something. And I'm not saying I'm the best at that, but I try to bring what I liked out of it. And yeah, so I feel like sometimes I spend like 3 months preparing for a webinar. I
Mm-hmm.
will admit this time I wanted to spend a lot of time, and then my co-presenter
Right.
had some tooth problem. We ended up kind of doing a rehash of something I'd done before. But for that one, I had done 3 months of work.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
saying 3 months, but I mean like let's assume it's like an hour or 2 hours a day for
Yeah.
3 months, like
Yeah. Yeah.
not full time, but like actually
Yeah.
recording demos, figuring out what's new in the company, like with our product, and then how we integrate to the other product and following the
Right.
news, that kind of
Right.
stuff. A lot of it's like watching YouTube and things like that, but making sure I know so if questions come up, I can talk about it.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't know if it's like blasé or whatever, but I feel like I'm hitting either a peak or I'm just getting less and less interested. And I want to talk sort of a little bit about the experience of attending a webinar and like
Mm.
what makes a good one. Because for me, I think it's the demo stuff. But for you, like, are you? I guess first off, are you a fan of webinars? Do you hate them? Do
No,
you try to avoid them like the
they're all
plague, or like
garbage.
what's
They're
okay?
almost with few
Which
exceptions,
is a
they're
common
all
take.
garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Because they're uh, so many of them are just led by the marketing people who do
Right.
not know anything about the actual
Right.
product, and it's just a waste of time unless you get
Gotcha.
somebody who is technical, who is not going to just use the marketing slides, who is going to go into
Right.
detail. And so I always tried to make sure that for my webinars, I was always going into quite a bit of detail. Sometimes
Right.
things didn't work out well, but
That happens.
um, I mean, I always think of like for the worst possible webinar at the time I did I think it was called a chat. It was the topic was chat ops,
Great.
and we were going to do a demo showing the integration with Datadog and um, HipChat. And
Okay.
Datadog was a big
Yeah.
HipChat customer at the time,
Yep.
and everything was set. Bunch of people in the company knew I was doing this thing. I was going to be, really useful, really good. But the apparently the ops team at Datadog did not know about this and chose that to be the day to do the transition where we cut off HipChat for the transition over to Slack.
That
And
is
my demo just broke
phenomenal. Phenomenal. And
everything broke.
this is where Matt's decree of like record all your demos. That's one of the
Yeah,
things I learned from you is like always have either a plan B or a
yeah,
plan C, but like always make sure if you
yeah,
think you're going to do a demo to record it, or maybe run with the
yeah,
recording, and if that doesn't work, then do it live kind of
yeah,
thing. But wow, that's awful.
yeah. Oh God, that was awful. Mike Fiedler, I think he might have been involved.
Oh no. Is this someone in IT? Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, no,
sorry, Mike.
he was the
Sorry
he
to
was
drudge up the time.
definitely. Wait, was Mike? Was your role actually in ops or IT? I just remember you as the. I mean, you were definitely the chef champion of the company, but
That's a
uh,
nice distinction.
yeah.
the the fact
But
that making it
anyway,
technical, I think is the main thing. Like as technical people, I feel like that's it. I do wonder though, because a lot of the times, so in speaking of the teams around this, so there is going to be marketing, probably an events
yeah.
team, maybe they're both. So director of tech ops, there you go. So somebody who
Okay, yeah,
would
there you go.
definitely be in charge of the
Yeah.
schedule.
It's funny. It's amazing. It's the first time we've attracted more than just Ryan's mom,
Either my mom or
and
someone
we got
posing
like
to be my mom.
the exact right person. It's amazing.
Who knew? So maybe we're going to have at least, was it 2,000 views you have on your other podcast? We might have two this time.
Yep.
Sorry, Mike, we joke. But so when it comes to webinars, like a lot of the teams involved who, if you think about goals and incentives, I think a
Yeah.
lot of it is marketing qualified leads. The MQLs
Hmm.
is probably what they want. So they signed up for a
Yeah.
webinar, so the person is showing interest, and therefore we want to target this audience in order to sell to them. So
Right.
decision makers, that kind of stuff. And that's sort of some of the gist that I'm getting at is like when you make it technical, maybe the C-suite people, the VPs, the directors who are attending are actually less interested. And these are the people who have the money to buy the product. So
Hmm.
I feel like my approach, so good for me, is maybe not good for all audience. And I try to be careful about it. So sometimes you'll get like a list of attendees beforehand. Sometimes you won't. And sometimes I'll look through the list. I don't want to spam them or anything like that. I won't connect to them on LinkedIn, but I do
Yeah.
want to know what their titles are or like who they
Right.
are, just to
Right.
figure out like what companies they're calling in from, or maybe where they're calling in from the world. Because
Hmm.
like if you're using analogies, like we made one today about building a house, and then I thought like, okay, there's people on this call who were building a house that I think was Buenos Aires was one of them, might be actually a little bit different than it is in New Jersey, my
Hmm.
co-center was coming from. So like some of that's a little bit different. But in terms of those leads or those people that they want on the call, I wonder if actually what they do want is maybe a 5-minute webinar
Right.
with
Yeah.
5 slides, and then they're in and
Right.
out. They can share it off and say, "Hey, looks like Datadog's a good thing. Here's what I found out. Please
Right.
run with this. Go from here." They don't want the hour-long call. They might,
Right.
maybe 15 minutes is what they have, but it feels like it's two completely different audience. So you've got like,
Yeah.
I think marketing will call them the
But
hands-on keyboard. Yep, go ahead.
those 5 slides are probably
Right,
useful for all audiences, right?
right. So I try to put them in the
So
beginning.
put them in the
Yeah,
beginning. I mean, I
right.
always remember,
Like check out now
um,
if you want to. It's about to get
yeah,
technical.
I remember that was one of the things I learned when I was at Microsoft. Always make sure that what's the most important part of the presentation, even
Right.
if it's if for the largest group of people, make sure that that's at the beginning, the first few slides of the presentation, and then
You
even
got it.
if that you're used to putting like the really good, the best stuff at the end. No,
Right.
put it right at the beginning. That way
Right.
you can guarantee that everyone. Now, of course, if somebody shows up late, they're screwed. But yeah,
Which also does happen, and I'm glad you touched on that. We'll circle back to the people coming late because
yeah,
that is important. So what I try to do is put kind of the marketing, like what the heck is Datadog and why should I care
yeah,
about it, kind of stuff
yeah.
at the beginning, and talk about it. But I do unfortunately put the demos at the end, and I
Hmm.
feel like I want to have people stay on longer because I notice they drop off really quickly
Yeah,
if you don't tell them, hey, there's going to be a demo at the end. We're going to use some real world stuff here. If you don't tell them that, they're gone. 15 minutes
yeah,
in, you've lost people in, and then you get the new joiners who is like, "Oh, is there going to be a
right.
recording?" Like, yeah, we
Yeah,
covered all
yeah,
in the beginning. They're like, "Oh, can I have these slides?" Like, you also covered
yeah,
that. No problem. They're in the Q&A asking you questions or something, or they realize that everybody else is talking about where they're calling in from. So then they're telling you that they're dialing in from Toronto,
right,
Ontario, which
right.
happened this morning. Half an hour through, like, yeah, you're 30 minutes late, but let's see if we can catch you up. I do find that pacing is difficult, but also, yeah, the ebb and flow of the attendees, because right around 3/4, you start to lose people very
Yeah,
fast.
yeah,
they've got to hit the bio break before they get back to the
Right.
next meeting or what
Right.
have you. But I think that the salient point that you said there, that, or what really sticks with me, is like similar to an exec summary in like a board meeting, or when
Hmm.
you're
Hmm.
actually presenting to the VPs, you want to have that like that one sentence takeaway should be the
Right.
first sentence. The mean time
Right.
to value needs to be in your mind. Like, how long does it take you to give somebody something that they didn't know
Right.
prior to them mentally checking out, checking their phone? I don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing. Is it TikTok these days? I think it's TikTok,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they hop back on TikTok and they're scrolling through it, and then they'll send the recording around to their teammates, pretending that they saw the whole thing, kind of thing.
Right.
But I do worry about that mean time to value. But at the same time, having that pacing throughout the whole thing is quite difficult.
Yeah.
Because if I front load it all, then it's just downhill from there.
Right. So I mean, yeah, as soon as I said that, I realized, wait, I also like to have um like the short version of the demo,
Right.
right, like almost the first thing.
Okay, I'm
Just
glad you
to
said that, because I have been thinking about that as well. Like just
yeah.
like a teaser almost.
I mean, one of my favorite things that I did when I was at Datadog that I used to love doing was anytime somebody else, either in our team or outside of our team, would do a presentation, they'd do a dry run with us. And it
Right.
would be different people within our team that would
Right.
do the dry run with them. And I, some people would give, one or two comments, and then I'd give my list of, my page long list of comments. Um,
Which
and one
honestly is
thing,
super helpful, even though you think that there's a lot of them. Like very, very helpful.
no, and one of the things I think I would often say was, um, it's a great presentation. I mean, the gist of it is, it's a shame I had to wait till the end to figure out, to really understand why I should care.
Right.
Um, and show me why I should care pretty early on. Like
Right.
even making the demo, like do if you have a 10-minute demo, do a 1-minute version of it right at the beginning, so
I like
people can
that.
say, "Oh my God, this is awesome! I got to stick around for the rest of this so I really understand
Right.
it." If you put it all at the end, like, oh my God, I fall asleep
That's
for
me.
the
Okay.
first half, and then maybe hopefully wake up by the time the demo shows up.
Good point. This is why we
Yeah,
have these chats. So the what's in it for me, the with them, if you will, needs to
yeah.
be, yeah. That's fair. And it's a good point, because I do like to see the tech stuff first. Like, you say there's going to be a demo, but like, do I really need to be here the whole time?
Yeah,
Or like, show me your demo. Like,
yeah, yeah,
how does the demo work? That's good. I
yeah.
think I can incorporate that pretty easily. My demos are generally like maybe 1 to 3 minute YouTube clips,
Hmm.
essentially, that I just string along as autoplay, and I can easily shuffle one of those to the beginning of the deck.
Right,
Like, hey, and here's how you get started with Azure. Well, there'll be more of these
right,
demos
right.
later, but here's a quick one. It takes you 3 minutes. You wanna hop off the
Now,
call and
you just
integrate that
said
now? Go ahead.
like a 1 to 3 minute demo, like
Mhm.
already pre-recorded
Yes,
as one
absolutely.
video straight through.
Yep. Yep. You got it. Yeah. So
So
imagine we're pivoting from logs to traces, for example, or that one
yeah,
specifically was like setting up the Azure Marketplace kind of thing. And then what I'll do is I'll string like 5 of those together and make like a 15-minute demo.
okay.
Instead of recording
One
15,
thing,
what I've noticed is that I can't record 15 minutes. I screw it up every time, and I end up doing
yeah,
like 3 hours worth of takes, because I don't use Descript. I think was your tip from like 3 episodes ago.
yeah. Except I would change that. I mean, one
Okay.
thing I
Okay.
did pretty well for a lot of the demos I did, like for reInvent and for all the other big important demos, I had to make sure it was just right.
Mhm.
Record the demo, get it to like a 5-minute recording, but then split it up into each stanza of what you're going to say. So
Oh.
it's actually,
Oh, that
one
adds,
three
yeah, because
minute
I like that
demo is
room
actually
between them.
20
Yeah,
20 videos,
I
each
like that.
one on a slide, and each
I
one
like that.
automatically starting.
I
And
like
that way
that.
you just
I
press,
find that,
yeah,
yeah, you just press next. I find that space between them really handy, because if I need to like
yeah,
add context or whatever, I'm using that space. So that would
and
increase the
and
amount of space that I
yeah,
have.
and then have the end of the video be an obvious point where you'd be talking about, whatever you're
Right.
talking about.
Right. I like it. Okay.
Um,
That's
so
good. That's actually super helpful, because I do find like the demo, they're pre-recorded, and I say, hey, this is pre-recorded. Like it's there. Here are my hands, kind of thing.
yeah,
But
yeah,
allow me to like put this into context of what we're talking about today. Here's me looking at
which
logs.
was always super frustrating at like Dash when some of the
Right.
PMs would say, oh, I'm doing a live demo, and then it's actually a video, and you just see them like moving their hands but it's recording. Just tell people it's a recording. It's okay. You don't have to
I
fake
do.
it.
Yeah, I feel like a big part of this job, like this position, is building trust. And I feel
Yeah,
like anything that's not authentic kind of goes
yeah,
against the goal, which is to build trust. So for me, that
right.
rings true, but maybe for the PMs or PMOs, it's
Yeah,
maybe not the same goal.
yeah. It's. I mean, I can remember a few of them where they're doing that, standing at the table in front of the
Right.
laptops, like, and trying to look like they're doing something. But of course, they're like talking like to the whole audience, doing this whole. I mean, I can't talk that well and do whatever I'm supposed to. I can only concentrate on one thing. So
I have noticed that I'm pretty good at demoing and talking from Twitch streaming, that kind of stuff.
okay,
But I have noticed that what I will forget is that context. If I don't
yeah,
have like a breather, like I won't remember to pause
right,
and put it in the context. And this is important because,
right,
and in
right,
the next demo, we're going like I'll forget all of that. I'll just like ramble and it takes too long. And it's just awful.
yep,
Like Twitch streams could take me 3 hours. I'm not even kidding, as opposed to something that like could easily take me 15 if I've done
yeah,
it a couple times beforehand. But yeah, I've done dry runs for the Twitch stuff, and it might take an hour. And then
yeah,
when I get on stream, it's just like your time budget's gone. Twitch streams are
yeah.
terrible for that. They take too long, and then there's questions in the chat that are like all over the map, and just I like it, but also
Yeah,
it's really not the same thing. It's a different kind of feel.
yeah,
People,
yeah,
yeah, it's like a conference talk where people could just, instead of raising their hand and asking a question, they could just like yell out questions the
right.
entire time about things that are completely different. Like, hey, have you seen YouTube? There's somebody else doing something. Like, well, I'm I'm up here doing my thing. Why are you in my Twitch chat telling me about
Yeah,
another Twitch channel?
yeah,
I'm here
yeah.
right now. Anyway, but Twitch is a whole thing. But I do feel like there is a bit of an analog between them because, like, in this
Right.
Twitch
Yeah.
generation, we do have a lot of people on sort of the webinar who want that experience. They want to get in the
Right.
chat and say stuff. And today the chat was disabled, which is like it's fine.
Mm,
But also, I really like it when the attendees can ask questions and
yeah.
answer each other. That is phenomenal to me. Like I don't need to
Yeah.
do anything. You've got all this. And there's a Q&A section, which is all right. But I do
Right.
like having people in the chat as opposed to in the QA telling me like where they're dialing in from. Much better suited for
Yeah.
the chat.
Yeah.
The problem, of course, being that when people ask questions in the chat, I think it's more difficult to capture the questions. Whereas today,
Mhm.
marketing's probably angry at me because like all the questions are just city names and states and stuff like that. So, I guess it's a
Yeah.
tough mix.
I mean, the problem with chat is you totally need somebody who is watching the chat. And
Right,
that's not you because I mean, or at
right,
least not me, because I
right.
can't concentrate on what I'm saying if I'm also
I'm not bad
concentrating
at
on the
it.
chat.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm amazed at some of the chat some of the Twitch streamers who do it really well where they're like
right,
talking about something and they bring in people and I think of when I watch any of the videos by like Techno Tim or
right.
Network Chuck I think or
Network check. Yeah,
others and they're it seems like they're doing a really good job of integrating these chat messages and
right.
even, I mean, Brett Fisher, who I'm now doing the podcast with as a co-host, he does a really good job. But um, yeah, it's but having that turned off, oof, God, that's. I mean, now there's your only feedback mechanism. I mean, then you might as well just
Right.
do if there's no
Pre-recorded.
chat, you might as well do
Yeah.
pre-recorded.
Exactly. That's kind of what I was thinking. You're removing the interactivity.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking of, like, should I be using straw polls or something going forward? Like what does this look
Yeah.
like if the chat's disabled? Like, how can I get around that? Because I can see
Yeah.
the benefits, like on their end, why they might want the chat to be disabled, especially if they don't want to have like a moderator. I'm actually pretty good at watching the chat
Hmm.
myself, I think, and rolling with it. But also, I feel like again, I learned how to do this role during 2020, 2021, 2022. So things are quite a bit different and it just became
Right.
normal. Whereas definitely the first couple streams, it was difficult to watch and do stuff, or I
Yeah.
just missed the
Yeah.
chat. I wouldn't even see anything going
Yeah.
on in there. But I do actually enjoy the interactivity that you get. And they'll give you tips like, hey, I found this. Actually, you might want to try it this way.
Hmm.
super handy. Like, oh, that's a really good
Yeah.
point. I didn't know that we announced a new feature that I didn't know about. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Because like
Hmm.
somehow it slipped through the cracks and I missed it. It wasn't in the
Yeah.
newsletter. It wasn't in like this week in Datadog, or sorry, this month in Datadog. So I missed it. I didn't know about it.
Hmm.
Thank you so much. That actually looks really cool. I'll look into it and talk to you about
Yeah.
it again, that kind of thing. That type of stuff, I think, in a webinar without chat is very difficult to do. So that's not a Q&A.
Hmm.
Someone's not going to pop that into a Q&A and ask you about it. It's a little
Yeah. I
bit
mean,
difficult.
one thing I've toyed around with the idea. I keep meaning to like build this as a either as as the sample that I show in the demo, and have it as the thing that I'm using, but some sort of audience sentiment, or audience,
Right.
what's their mood, and allow people on the other end to log into the site or just anonymously log in and say everything's good. Just stick with everything's good most of the time, but then be able to roll that over to it's going too slow, or it's going too fast,
Right.
or I've got a question, or whatever it is. And my view as a speaker, I don't really care about the individual. One person says it's going too
Right.
fast or slow. I just want to have like
Right.
the almost like the chart with the
Like
crosshairs, so
like
that I can see it
spider
kind of
spider
veering
chart,
off.
spider graph.
Yeah, and see where are things right now.
Oh, I know what you're talking
Um,
about. Like the target one. Like yeah.
yeah,
Excellent.
it's like, okay, I'm on target, or I need to slow
Right.
down, I need to speed up, I need to go more detail, I need to have less detail.
Right.
And I think that would be, I mean, that's great, not only for a webinar, especially if you have the chat turned off,
Mhm.
but also for, I mean, presentations, live presentations. I think that's probably useful as well, because I mean, sometimes people are just, I mean, if they start to zone out, they're not going to ask questions, and so you're not going to know that you've lost half the audience. I
Yeah,
feel
you
like
got it.
that would
Like
be,
this podcast, for example. We were talking about tech ops before, and we had Mike's
yeah,
attention, but now
yeah, yeah.
we lost
I think
him.
yeah, we
Who's
had
staying
two or
power?
three people, and now I think we're down to just your mom again.
Oh, we need a captive audience. I think is the other thing is like a
Yeah,
webinar. I don't have them in the room. I can't like lock the doors.
right.
You're here for an hour, whether you like it
Yeah.
or not. So give me feedback and I'll make it better as we go along. Kind of thing is way
Hmm.
more difficult in a webinar. I do
Yeah.
tell people because I tend to drink coffee and talk fast. I do tell people to let me know if I talk too quickly or too slowly. Let me know because
Hmm.
I'll often if I talk too fast, I will then talk very slowly to make up for
Yeah.
it, and both of those are frustrating. So
Yeah.
it's bad when I'm too fast, bad when I'm too slow, kind of thing. But without that feedback, is quite difficult for me. So that
Yeah.
sentiment analysis as we go through would be
Yeah.
very handy. I've had a couple webinars like Tank. I had one with Spiceworks that was awful. They're asking me for my Tinder profile and stuff. It was really bad. Like, these are like I get these are funny forum jokes, but also we're doing a webinar right now.
Wow. Wow.
I don't think we've done anything with them since. And listen, great folks. The audience was just a little
Uh-huh.
bit.
Yeah.
I just wanted to. It was like meme. It was meme Saturday or something. They just wanted to like
Uh-huh.
spread the jokes. I was like, that's cool. However, I'm also here to do a job, and like I appreciate what you're trying to do. Also, it's tough. Thank
Wow.
you for that. I mean, it's kind of a silly topic, but I really do feel like webinars are kind of like an untapped
Yeah. Yeah.
thing, and I feel like even the name is like a stigma associated to the name. I almost want to say like this is a live demo session. This isn't a webinar.
Right.
Like I want
Yeah.
to frame it. I want to be in control of that message in the way that it's
Right.
produced because I want people to understand what I'm talking about
But
is technical. It's not marketing.
yeah. But then again, that might also, for the people that want the 5 slides, might think
Right.
that, okay, well, it's
Good
not for
point.
me.
Good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know.
Food for thought. Maybe I can put
That's
in the
hard.
title. Working session, webinar working session with some
Right.
marketing
Yeah.
up front or something. Like
Yeah.
really be descriptive and tell them what's in it for them.
Yeah.
If your title starts with C, we've got info in the first 5 minutes, and you can leave.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
Okay, I'll think about it a bit. And this is coming
Yeah.
from the same like person who will write stuff in ChatGPT for the landing page and
Right.
things like that. So maybe I should rethink that as well because I feel like some of that copy is a little bit more when ChatGPT writes it for webinars
Right.
specifically. Because if you tell it, hey, ChatGPT, write me a webinar abstract, it will look like all the other webinar abstracts. Good. Also, if people really find those abstracts boring, they'll find mine boring as well. So there's got to be something that you want to add a little bit of spice to it or something.
I hadn't thought of using, I mean, ChatGPT to build out the
Oh, absolutely.
abstracts
You,
for
you,
talks and
ChatGPT, write me a 10-page slide deck about Datadog and observability. Literally did that the other day. Now, what it considers 10 pages of slides are like, so for you and me, I think we'd agree like 2 sentences. Sure,
Yeah.
that's what it did. It gave me 2 sentences times 10. And it was
Right.
not bad. The flow was
Wow.
pretty bad. It kind of went like this and then dropped off in
Oh,
terms of
yeah.
like interesting stuff and like,
Yeah.
here's the observability, and that dropped off, which is like, okay, actually, I
Right.
can work with that. I can move it around and move things beginning.
Yeah.
But it, like legitimate, I'll spare it to you after this, but legitimately wrote like multiple paragraphs
Wow.
of sentences that worked together and did have like a pacing and,
Yeah.
and actually got me there. The title wasn't great, but you can say, hey, can you suggest 10 more? And it will
Yeah.
give you 10 more. And you can like full on build up like a quick deck. But Rick is my boss now, but my boss and I talk about ChatGPT for this stuff all the time as more of like a writing prompt. So like get me
Yeah.
to the first hands-on keyboard, because
Right.
otherwise I'm going to forget to even start this. And once you get
Right.
it, editing is a lot easier. You can run it through Grammarly or what have you.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
something else called Antidote, or you can run it
Yeah.
through something else to make the pacing better, because that's often
Yeah.
what's missing. Is it's looking at the average webinar, and the average webinar is
Mhm.
pretty bad. So we want to be above average. You have to insert yourself into it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh.
Did
Yeah.
we break you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm all about the AI
I'm
stuff. Or at least getting me
yeah.
started quickly on things. Like, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm still this newbie about how can I use ChatGPT or other tools, and it's like, oh my god,
You could straight
because I
up
mean that's
tell it to
hard
write.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I mean for coming up there for topics, coming up with a topic for a talk, that's still, oh, maybe I need to come, maybe I just need to throw that at ChatGPT, but
You can do
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
It's so bad where I think you may be enough of a public figure that you might have samples in your library for you. What I've noticed is in terms of the talent that I work with, at like outside of work, I
hmm
do portraits and stuff like that. I can feed Delhi. It's a little bit weird about people's names for celebrities. However, for like agency models and things like that, like let's assume like a male model, I can type in their name from an agency, and I don't know if it knows the agency or whatever, but it will actually generate images that look enough like that person where you could come up with a theme for a shoot based on the AI prompt. So almost backwards. And you could say like, yeah, this is like, it's a man with flowers and it's got like a certain focal length and the light looks
hmm
like this. And you could like build an actual magazine submission from it. It's that good. So what I'm saying is I feel like you could say, in Matt Williams's voice, please write me the intro to a podcast where he talks to Ryan, and he would do it because it's got some samples of your work. I think it's up to 2020. So as long as you were
Okay.
active until 2020,
Yeah.
it would have it. And I feel like you've been in the community enough where it could write
Yeah.
something as you, which is pretty interesting. It couldn't for me. Like I tried a few times. It has no idea who I am, or it used a different Ryan McLean who works
Right.
at Microsoft on 365. Not the same Ryan. I won't say more or less interesting. It's not the same.
And
But it's
now
totally
there's
worthwhile.
ChatGPT 4. Will it be? Is that newer? I don't know.
Like GPT-3 versus GPT-4. Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe it's got a more recent data set. I don't know too much about the details, but I
What
believe
would you
that one of the
suggest?
big differences.
Right.
Yeah, write a podcast
Well,
intro in Matt
podcast
Williams's
intro.
voice.
Well, how's it going to know me? I mean, there's a bunch of other Matt Williams, the baseball player.
Maybe that might even be more interesting. When I talk about home runs, I mean real home runs. Let's have a podcast about actual home runs. That'd be cool. I like it.
About
For the tech stuff, you can say in the style of like Dr. Seuss is a good example. Oh, and it will take image inputs. I didn't know that, Mike. Thank you very much. That's pretty cool. I'll have to feed it some of my stuff and figure out what it comes out. But that's pretty interesting.
Okay, so I did it, and
And
it sounds like something I would say.
It can also be a little bit generic. So if you're a generic
Yeah,
persona, then is it generic? I find it's a bit generic
a little
sometimes.
bit, but it's it's pretty good.
Excellent. And what I found is that again, I don't think this is a be all end all, but what I found is like what it gives you is enough for you to go in and edit it and then make something usable out of it more quickly than it would have taken
Yeah,
you to have like the 5 coffees and finally get the
yeah,
wherewithal to sit down and start writing. It's sometimes easier just to throw it away and be like, no, this is garbage. I want it to start from scratch. But then it's like you're part of that algorithm. You're the human in the
yeah.
loop. You're one of the other Minority Report kind of things deciding what this should look like, which is I think it's pretty neat. I think that concept of having like a group think with unlimited computers
Hmm.
plus your brain as a curator is like, oh, okay, this kind of works. If they're just coming up with their own stuff, maybe less interesting. But if I'm then involved and like feeding off of what they've got plus my body of work, like that's
Hmm.
now we're cooking with gas. Like that's a whole
Yeah.
different aspect.
So I earlier
Yep.
earlier today, a few of us were playing with ChatGPT,
Okay.
and I fed it the prompt of come up with 20 new jokes about SSH.
Oh no. Are there any good
And
ones? Sometimes the jokes are bad, like actually bad.
why did the SSH connection win the race? It
I
had
don't know
tunnel
why.
vision.
So I mean that's a
And
dad joke. Okay, I'll take it.
and then why did the SSH connection go to therapy?
Okay, why?
It had trust issues.
That's actually pretty good.
Um,
I would use that. That's the keeper.
why do you call a security expert, or what do you call a security expert who loves SSH? A keeper of the peace.
See that's pretty bad. The fact that you told it to me though makes me think that you think that it's good.
What
I,
is
I think
another
you're
one?
are you now in like dad joke land? Is that what
Oh yeah,
happened?
there's
Yeah.
something chocolates, a YouTube channel, something stay for the chocolates or something.
Okay.
It's these four people that just
Oh, you're
tell
killing
jokes
me.
to each others, and I mean some of them are really bad and but so funny. Yeah,
I do like I feel like you may have nerd sniped me here, but I need to come up with more Kubernetes jokes or something. Like this is gonna be fun. I like that. The trust issues one is pretty good. Oof. So I do wonder, like, if GPT-3 is based on a certain data set, I can only assume that the next 3 years are even larger. I mean, next 2 years, I guess it probably won't be three.
yeah,
That would be disturbing. The next 2 years are going to be even larger, but also they're colored with a certain like there was stuff going on in 2022, both like politically as well as like in terms of what humor was. Things have evolved quite a bit. We're all online doing online things at I think a higher rate than usual. So I wonder if that means that the data set it was definitely larger, but if
yeah,
it's larger than expected, and because of that, things are going to be pretty neat. I can't like imagine if ChatGPT could just generate memes for us. Like, come on,
yeah,
based on last week's Oscars, which it doesn't know yet, generate me memes on the screen clips.
hmm,
And Mike's saying they will accept images, so I can add
yeah.
images to it and like caption these in a meme format for me. Let's go. Let's see what happens.
So I asked, make 5 jokes about Kubernetes.
Oh no,
Why do containers love hanging out with Kubernetes?
I don't know.
It always keeps our lives well orchestrated.
I mean,
Mm,
eh,
okay.
it's actually pretty good. That's more like a wholesome
Um,
kind of. Yeah, I like it. This is like a Kelsey Hightower joke.
well, that was bringing it back to the original topic.
Right?
One of the I can't remember what we talked about, but one of the webinars I did was me and Kelsey Hightower.
That's fantastic. And I find like most of his have live demos in them
Yeah,
when I see them.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
which is
I can't
maybe
remember
one of
what
the
we
people
talked
I
about.
think about.
I'm sure I was
Yeah, so
awesome.
I'm sure you were. Well, what are the other jokes? I'm super interested now. Now that we're doing live
Okay.
demos, see, this is way more interesting than us just talking about webinars.
What's Kubernetes' favorite musical instrument?
Oh, I don't know.
The Kubala.
Okay, I just don't know the musical
Okay.
instruments. I guess it
Yeah.
might be fun.
Why did Kubernetes become a traffic cop? It
Oh,
was
I'm not sure.
great at controlling clusters.
Okay, we're getting
Okay,
somewhere.
yeah. What do you call a Kubernetes pod that's always late to meetings?
I'm not sure.
A kube come lately. Yeah, they're
All right.
pretty
Well,
lame.
one of these is
They're
okay.
pretty
Yeah, one
lame.
of these is all right.
How does Kubernetes stay cool in the summer? With its containerized kubebreeze. Yeah, that's all it came up with. So not the best joke maker.
The SSH jokes were better. I feel like SSH has
Yeah,
been around longer, so maybe that's why the jokes
yeah,
are funny.
yeah.
There's a lot of overuse of the cube kind of thing, which is maybe
Kube,
the
yeah,
biggest issue. Yeah,
yeah,
cube.
yeah.
All right. I like the SSH joke, so the
Well,
trust issue is one I'm going to
well,
reuse.
so the trust issue one, yeah, that was. I think there's probably 2 jokes in the SSH list, and I had it come up with 20.
But
So
listen,
most of the 20 were garbage.
yeah, but you did nothing. No offense.
Right.
It did all the work. For
It,
you to come
it
up with those
yeah.
20 jokes would probably
Oh,
take you
yeah,
a couple
yeah.
days at least.
Yes, yes.
I know for me at least, like joke writing is not easy. It's
No,
one of those
no.
things that's very. If I have to sit down and think about it, it's tough.
Have you ever seen that, there's a, I think, HBO show, Hacks,
No.
with I can't remember who's in it, but, it's a story of a comedian who has, been doing the same show for 20 years in Las Vegas, and she's
Okay.
paired up with this, her show is getting a little bit boring, but still the people who go to the show a lot, they love her. And then there's this young writer who has made a few jokes that were on Twitter that basically got her blacklisted. And she's paired up with this comedian to
Right.
come up with a new show,
Right.
a fresh show, and it's very funny. It's called Hacks. I think it's on
That's
HBO.
awesome. The people who write jokes have like.
Yeah,
I
how
like
they
to
do
think of
it.
myself as
Yeah,
pretty quick witted, but like not even
yeah,
close. Not even
yeah,
close. It's amazing. I don't know if you've got friends who are like just on the ball, just
yeah,
just
yeah.
laughing this.
I'm
Wow.
I'm lucky if I can remember a joke that I was told, and I have to like go over it many, many times. Yeah,
It's definitely just a different skill
yeah.
for sure. We're kind of at the recommendations point here, but like
Mhm.
I do wonder. So in Canada, watching HBO is a bit of a chore. In the
Mm.
US, how is it like HBO Go or Plus or like how do you watch HBO?
Well, when I did,
Mhm.
so one thing that we do is we'll get 1 or 2 subscriptions at a time, and then end it, and then move on to something else, and then end it and move
Oh,
on.
okay.
So right now we are HBO lists, but we just on Apple TV at HBO. I think that's how I did it.
Yeah, see, that's the issue. We
Yeah.
just can't. There's no like there's no app. You can VPN and go through a bunch of other stuff to get it to
Hmm.
like pretend you're in the States, and it's hit or miss.
Right.
Sometimes they'll figure out where you are. Okay, we've got something
Hmm.
here called Crave, which I don't think exists in the US, but it's kind of like one of those streamer of streaming
Right.
services where you can like grab a few, but it's
Hmm.
a little bit expensive, honestly. We're at the point now where we're like bundling streaming services similar to cable.
Yeah.
I know this point has been made a few times, but it feels like that's where
Hmm.
we are at this point. And
Yeah.
I know Paramount Plus and Disney Plus and
Hmm.
HBO, I think are supposed to become some big thing. And I'm kind of
Hmm.
hoping, at least for Canadians, that that makes it
Right.
easier. But for us to get HBO, which honestly I think is some of the highest quality content, Apple
Yeah.
TV Plus I think actually is second, which is a big surprise to me. Like in terms of
Uh,
original content, those two are
yeah.
quite good.
I would put at the moment for the last, I mean, since it came out, and going forward into this new season, I'd say Apple TV is, I mean, pretty much everything they put out is amazing.
Quite good, yeah. And Netflix is
And
great. It's got a lot of quantity.
do you
It's
have
just
Apple? Do you have
quality.
Apple TV or
I had Apple TV Plus for 2 years,
okay?
and I'm debating starting it again because like newer seasons of stuff has started. We were just talking about the problem with Jon Stewart, for example, which is what I'd
Hmm.
recommend, but I haven't seen
Hmm.
the new season, so I can't say. But I saw a clip just at lunch, and like
Yeah.
honestly feel like this show is really high quality, kind of like
Yeah.
show. And I think the other one would be like Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, for example, which is
Hmm.
on HBO as far as I know. But like those two, for me at least, feel like they're pretty high quality in terms of like catching me up for news, as well as having like opinions that I would
Yeah.
generally share, or like at least some news research, some fact based reporting, which is pretty important to me.
Mhm.
It's pretty hard to find, but I actually do feel like Apple TV's got quite a few. I don't know, it just shows that wow me,
Yeah.
very surprising. Very, very surprising. Yeah, so that's my recommendation. The problem with John Stewart, I'm going to try to figure out where I can get it, how I can get it, but I'll probably end up paying Apple TV Plus
Yeah.
just for another year.
Um, yeah, I mentioned hacks. And I think that's really, I mean, I don't, I mean, I'm looking around at my desk and I don't
Yeah,
have
I know. That's what I
anything
was thinking. Like, oh,
to
you don't have
rug.
any
So,
purchases you can talk about.
um,
What did you watch on the plane? Were
I
there any
guess,
movies? When you...
huh? Oh, I actually just
Sorry,
downloaded a whole bunch of YouTube videos and watched those.
that's cool.
But I watched something last night that I downloaded, which was, it started out kind of stupid and then I got sucked in, and then it ended up being kind of stupid. But it was a Norwegian movie or Swedish,
Okay,
and called Black Crabs, where they, it's a post-apocalyptic world,
yeah.
and
Black Crab,
the
singular
last
maybe.
Black Crab or Black Crabs, um,
Okay,
uh, the military has to get this thing to the other side, to their base further away, but the only way to get there is over the ice, and so they bring in these soldiers who are former speed skaters or something, and they skate across.
this sounds
It's
like
like
a very Swedish
Sharknado
movie.
kind of thing.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up in the background. So it's a solid five pretty much everywhere, but stars Numi Rapace, who I actually really like. So I would watch it based on that alone.
Five,
Um,
5 out of 5, or 5 out of 10, or 5 out of 100.
5 out of 10. 5 out of 10.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Like middle of the road, which is fine because
Yeah.
I actually really do like kind of post-apocalyptic thrillers. So I would
Yeah.
watch it for sure. This is definitely my thing. But this is like just proof to my point. Like there's a lot of Netflix things that come out that are like Netflix only, but 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
That's cool. They greenlight a lot of things, I guess.
But I will add one other pick, which is
Okay.
pretty amazing. I started using an app pretty recently called
Ooh, that
Endel.
looks nice. Yeah.
I think it's Endel. What's it spelled? Endel. Endel. It's one of
Okay.
these kind of background noise, background music kind of apps. Generative, so I think it is different. I mean, it's based on a small set of sounds at the beginning that it kind of jumbles up together to make something that you can play in the background as you're working or sleeping or resting.
Wow.
And it does a really good job. So a lot of the other tools, like I subscribe still to Brain FM.
Right.
Listening to that a little bit less, and maybe it's time to stop that subscription. But this seems pretty cool.
Very neat. Yeah, it's tons of reviews. It's very, very interesting. I want to try this.
Yeah.
It says that it's
Yeah.
built into a pair of Sony headphones as well, which is like, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I could buy it.
Yeah.
I do really like headphones. It's probably the issue. I was like, yeah, I can try this. But I also like to be able to go for a walk or like a photo walk kind of thing without having the phone with me is like a big
Right.
big goal. Without the drive to look at Slack or whatever is very important to me. This seems really neat.
Cool.
Wow.
Well,
Tons of good reviews. All right.
I think we should end here. I think I'm supposed to go eat dinner. We're going to Osteria Julia.
Ooh. All right. Yeah, I guess it's pretty late there. It's almost 6 there, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
All right. Well, enjoy your supper. Enjoy Toronto.
Yeah. This should be really good.
Right.
They always
Always
pick
great
good
talking about.
Yeah, and you.
Let's get here. Let's see if we can find the end stream button.
Yeah. Oh, and thanks, Mike, for showing up.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Mike. Hey.